dark ocean is a mysterious place full of, well, dark water, ruled over by a dark master with his strange red-eyed minions and a dark, strange fog, the lighthouse emitting darkness. But really, what is the dark ocean? Well, we've gotten a few glimpses of it in a couple of seasons, pretty much entirely from Digimon Adventure and its offshoots, but what really is it? We've had tiny little bits that I wish to present to you here of what we've seen in the anime, and also a little bit of some speculation and trying to figure out what exactly it is. Because there's still so much potential left in the digital world that we can explore even these little offshoot worlds and still have so much fun diving into the lore of this strange world. So, the very first time that we know for sure of the Dark Ocean is in Digimon Adventure 02, Episode 13, His Master's Voice. It begins with Kari having a dark dream of seeing a lighthouse that emits darkness, a dark figure rising out of the ocean. She goes to class and has water all around her, and she's isolated from everybody. And as she's walking over towards the beach, she just seems to phase out and disappear in front of Garamon's eyes. How did she get there? It really just seems like something called her. There's no portal, there's no device that triggered her transportation there. And she ends up in this dark area. No, not that dark area. The Dark Ocean and the Dark Area are two separate places. Are in a dark village with nobody there. Signs that read in Digicode, in the house of Rillier, the dead Cthulhu awaits dreaming. Thank you, with the will. Forms that translation of the sign here. That is closely tied to Innsmouth, which is very much what this place certainly looks like. Which, if you don't know, is a very much Cthulhu thing. And yeah, this area has very close ties to Cthulhu. Ikari finds herself going into the tunnel, finds these poor Scubamon that are bound by the Dark Emperor, which means that he definitely has access to this place. And we'll find out later a little more how. And so they ask her for help. She, of course, agrees to help them, but things start to go wrong, and while she's being attacked, he calls out to TK, who's actually trying to look for her. Garamon's like he's just nuts, and has given up looking for her. I don't... Curse you, Adventure 02, for making me watch more of this to research this video. And so, a portal of light opens, which is her pinkish light, which we've seen. The crest of light is pink, so many times that's the kind of light. And she appears to be reaching out and calling to him, and he opens, and that's how TK gets there, along with Patamon and Garamon, is they just jump through a portal. Okay, so that's very different than how Kari got there. And as they are fighting, they, instead of fighting the enemy, turn and hit the lighthouse. Which I've looked for a lighthouse that emits darkness, and I have not found anything in the Lovecraftian world or any reference to that beforehand. As it turns out, it's just a control spire. Now, I've heard some people say that because it's there, the control spires originate from the dark area. From the dark ocean, not dark area. But I just think that he just installed it there in order to empower those spirals. Which we find out as Angemon frees these Scubamon from the spirals, they morph into more just black and very vague red-eyed creatures. Well, they lose a bit of the red eyes. And just soulless eyes staring. And depending on the version that you do, they're either trying to mate with Ikari to create strong offspring to fight their master, or just a queen to lead them in battle against their master. Ugh. And if you know anything about Digimon, breeding is not a thing. That's not a Digimon thing, which all the more leads to that this is another world. This is not the digital world. And those spirals that they were wearing, they were still talking. Like, they were not being controlled by them. It was really all just trick. So they aren't even affected by them, all the more not Digimon. When every Digimon that wears it is very much affected and controlled. And so they recede into the ocean, and TK and Kari just, they're like, okay, let's go home, and rise up, and just go through the sky, and then through a field of flowers, and then they're good. So, just leaving the darkness behind and overcoming it allowed them to just leave? I guess. It is almost never very specific when or how you enter the Dark Ocean, as we will see in future episodes as well. Then episode 19 is slightly different because this is where we encounter the Dark Whirlpool, and the Digimon Emperor calls it as a gateway to the Land of Darkness, which makes sense. That is generally what it's known for, but the one time it's come up. And as they're going in, there's dark spirits all around, and the Mechanorimon that first go in go too deep and get sucked down to the bottom. To where and what happens to them might be best we never find out. And when he actually goes down there, the Digimon Emperor, he finds bits and pieces of Devimon. So the Dark Whirlpool would make sense to connect to the Dark Ocean. But if Devimon's down there, it might more tied to the Dark Area, because supposedly that is where evil Digimon are banished, because when Anubismon judges a soul, he either allows it to be reborn or condemns it to the Dark Area. Now, I'm not entirely sure how canon that is. That's just Anubismon's lore, because then how would you ever get virus Digimon born back there? Is no one born a virus, but they can become a virus by their actions? Let's stop for another video. Let me know in the comments below if you want to hear me dive deeper into that one. In episode 23, we get another glimpse of the Dark Ocean, because after Ken's brother, Sam, dies... No, don't go killing Sams. I don't appreciate that. And that he goes with his Digivice, and he gets messages that lure him when he goes through a gate, and instead, he's not in the digital world, he's at the Dark Ocean. Which is one of the very few times that we see someone actually passing through a gate to get to the Dark Ocean. Not the only time. We'll get to that one later. And he dips the Digivice into the Dark Ocean, and it becomes the Dark D3 that he uses. So this ties his Digivice to the Dark Ocean. So it can create links to it, because he uses it later in another episode. And we'll get to that one later. Episode 31 is when the Dark Ocean comes up again. This is all in Adventure 02. As Ken is trying to recover from being the Digimon Emperor, he cries out in this episode and says, "It was the Dark Ocean, it was all its fault." And Yoli and Kari are like, "It's okay, we're here, what's wrong?" And as they're walking away, a cave just appears in front of them, and they enter it and just vanish. And they go into this dark wooded area with fog, and when they see Davis and Vemon again, they call out to him, and he passes through them. They can see him, but he cannot see them or hear them. So they're in more of like a parallel world, where in the human world, TK couldn't see or hear her at all until the portal opened. So this is an area that's not either in the digital world or the human world, but is closer to the digital world because it can actually overlap a little and see it, where the human world was something completely separate. Yoli, who's fallen off a cliff, they're trying to help her out and pull her back up. They see the ocean come flooding in, and Kari and Ken freak out, and they go running out to the harbor and see it's the Dark Ocean again, and they're like, "No, we can't escape it," and Yoli's just like, "I can't see it." So something about the way they're feeling, the way they view the darkness, they can see it, but Yoli can't, until she becomes so frustrated that she can. She experiences a strong enough emotion that it can reach out and get a hold of her, and she can see it. So it is a world that, as they say, is a quantum sea and is tied to emotion. More and more evidence that we see almost every time as it's coming up is it's tied to emotion. You get in a dark enough place, it comes seeking you. Because as Arukenimon and Mummymon are following Black War Greymon, they look over on the cliff. They're able to see our trapped people just on a cliff and phasing in and out. Say they're in a phase warp. So why can they see them? Well, because they're Digimon. Well, no, the Digimon that were with the main group couldn't see them. Why could they see them? Curse you, Digimon Adventure 02, for trying to make me think about this. I don't have a good explanation on this one. They're more powerful, so they can see. That's the best explanation I got. And when she sicks the Blossomon on them, that actually enters into the Dark Ocean to attack them, it literally cracks through the world and creates a hole in it. Okay, so it is something more physical. It's not just purely emotional. And when they finally do defeat it, they don't even go through the portal. It just fades away, and they're back to being in there. So there was a physical gate, because, well, that is what TK jumped through and the Blossomon punched through, but every other time it's emotional. Okay. So, getting in and out of this world is always whack. It's very different. It's typically emotion, but apparently there are other ways that can do it as well. And finally, in episode 45, we get our final mention of it in Digimon Adventure 02, where they vanish, where Ken tells us, oh, I've been to the Dark Ocean, I can open a gate, this is what I used to do it. Because the terminal was... because the D3 was tainted there, now he can use it to go through. So he changes the gate that was open and turns it into a gate to Dagomon's Ocean, as Daemon calls it, because he seems to recognize it. And doesn't seem perturbed at all. He says, I'll be back and we'll have my revenge. Of course he comes back in the season. And so they are able to banish him and it closes behind him, no problem. But once again, that was a gate. That wasn't emotion-based, but it was definitely tied to the location. So now we move ahead many years, both in the anime and in the real time, to our next talk about it, which is in Digimon Adventure Tri, the Coexistence movie, where female agent, yes, thank you, that's the real name. Don't remember this character, has done the reboot. She did it all to get together with her partner again, and Tapirmon doesn't recognize her, leaves her, and she is crushed. She's crying out. She's trying, no, you can't just leave me. How could you do this? Well, I thought we were together. And she's just wandering and wandering. And finally, when we get to her, she's in dark water. She turns around and sees those amorphous creatures. And even with her gun, says, stay away from me or I'll dust you. Yes, these are real anime now. We can actually have guns. But she can't even fire it. She's just like, am I not good enough? Am I not still your partner? And the waves crash over her, and she falls down into the ocean. What happens to her at that point? Probably just becomes another one of those creatures. But if we're talking about they wanted to have offspring with Kari, let's say not good things probably happened to her. But if you look at this image of her falling into the water, drowning, or sinking into it, this reminds me of something. We go all the way back to the original Digimon Adventure. In the episode 51, The Crest of Friendship, two people have this same effect, Matt and Sora, where they are lost in a cave that suddenly mysteriously appears and calls them in, and they're drowning in this emotion, in this darkness. I don't think the Dark Ocean was a thing at the time that they created that, back in Season 1. But I think they very much could make a case that that was the Dark Ocean reaching out and pulling them in. And if they had been able to not have someone there to help them, they would have been pulled all the way into the ocean and find that world and everything. Where, thankfully, they had their friends and their partners there to help them out and pull them out. It was just another thing that feeds off of that dark emotion. These are all of the things in the anime that have shown the Dark Ocean appearing. These are all of the places that it has shown up. So we believe it's ruled over by Dragomon. We believe it is very much tied to emotion, especially dark emotions, that call you to it. Could it have something to do tied with dark evolutions? It's probably more the dark area. But because a lot of dark evolutions are caused by emotions which are tied to this world and realm, again, you could do something very cool with that. They are those black amorphous minions that definitely have, shall we say, tendencies that are not like Digimon, so they are definitely from a different world, as such. It is very difficult, whether you know when exactly how to get there, or necessarily even how to get out. Usually it's just, oh, you figured out your problems, or you have a handy device that lets you use gates to get in and out. But the biggest question I have about all of this is, what is the point? So Dagomon is here in his own world, creating his own army. Is that all he wants? Does he just want to spread out and continue to create this army? Well, that's not that exciting. So is he trying to become powerful enough to take over other worlds? Man, okay, cool. That that there's a nice possibility there. Is he trying? What is he doing with this army? That is the biggest thing. Is he has all of these minions to serve him? Why? Is it to bring the end of everything? Very basic bad guy? Probably, because Digimon to me doesn't seem like an especially intelligent Digimon that really has higher end plans. It's really, this is the area where if you fall into depressive states, too much sadness and all this stuff and self-doubt, it pulls you in, adds you to the army, and eventually when it pulls from all of the worlds and creates a large enough army, it could take over all of them. At least that sounds what I think Lovecraftian would be. Obviously, this is a bit of speculation, backed up by what I could find in the animes. I just hope that as they're claiming that they've run out of ideas almost in Digimon, that they expand out into these other things. There's things that are still within Digimon. You could do so much more with, guys. Just do something with what you've already teased us. I know probably back in the day you didn't expect to do much more with it. It was just a guest writer that she ended up writing the end of Digimon Tamers. Yeah, I can see where that came from now. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more Digimon content. And as always, everyone, remember to be awesome. Until next one, take care. Bye-bye!